Alright, so part 3 in Daniel chapter 7 series. Before we get started, if you're new to the channel, guys, just make sure that if you really want to get a deep understanding of the scriptures and of your Father in heaven and of our Lord Jesus Christ, then go back all the way to unlocking the Holy Bible, the Word of God playlist. This is I designed this playlist in exactly the right order to watch the video. So if you're new to the channel, stop watching this video and start with unlocking the Holy Bible. If you're not new but you missed out on Daniel chapter 2 series, you need to watch that before you watch this series. So I'm going to bring this up at the beginning of each video because it's important that you start at the right place so that your understanding is as great as it can possibly be. Also remember, if you're not subscribed, to go ahead and hit the subscribe button and to hit the notification bell so that you get all notifications when the videos come out. Let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so we ended the last video on Daniel chapter 7 verse 3, and we're going to go here to Daniel chapter 7 verse 4. And now we're going to get into the actual beasts that, remember, we're looking from God's perspective. We're in Daniel 2, we look from man's perspective. God gave Nebuchadnezzar, the king of the earth, a dream and a vision from his perspective, being that his heart was full of pride and arrogance and all about human endeavor and human possibility, what man can do. Okay, now we're looking at it from God's eyes. And it says here that verse 3 said that four great beasts, four great kingdoms, four great beasts came up from the sea. That is the peoples, tongues, nations, and kingdoms, diverse one from the other, one from another. So verse 4, the first of these beasts was like a lion, and had eagle's wings, and I beheld till the wings thereof were plucked, and it was lifted up from the earth, and made to stand upon the feet as a man, and man's heart was given to it. So let's break this down, and the first thing that we're dealing with here is that the first beast was like a lion. So what Father's doing here through his word, is through this vision that he's given Daniel, is that, remember, Daniel is about the church and about those who are in the faith. And so this vision is for the people that are in the faith. It's not for the world. He didn't give it to a king or to somebody that is worldly, but he gave it specifically to Daniel. So the first beast that comes up out of the sea, that comes up out of the people's, tongues, and nations, out of the Mediterranean Sea area, is the Babylonian Empire, as we know from Daniel chapter 2. And it says here that this beast's character, its ways, are like a lion. So the beast itself is presented to us, or symbolized to us, as a lion. In Daniel chapter 2, is presented as the head of the body of the statue. It is presented as being gold, and understand that gold is the most noble metal. Lions are the most noble beast of the field. They are called the king of beasts. So the lion is a king of all the beasts. It is the head of all the beasts. It is the one in charge over all the other beasts. Nothing can come up against it on its own and conquer the lion. Other animals and stuff can come in groups, like groups of hyenas, 20, 30 hyenas can take out a lion. But if a second lion comes in, 20 or 30 hyenas cannot take out the lion. They'll back off and they'll take off. The point of the matter is that you're dealing with the king of the beasts. Remember that in the scriptures, beasts are always representing the heathen nations. So we have the same symbology here in Daniel chapter 7 that we had in Daniel chapter 2. It is the head of the beast kingdom, that of the animal kingdom, the lion is. And so just like in Daniel 2 being the head of the body, in Daniel chapter 7 it is the head of the beast system, or the beast empire, or the beast kingdoms. In other words, it is that which is going to be the fundamental core of all the other beasts that will come forth. The other interesting thing is that a lion's mane, his mane behind his neck there, is a goldish type of a color, the same exact color that we're given over in the book of Daniel chapter 2. Again, what he's doing is he's now showing it from his eyes, from his perspective, instead of from man's perspective. We're seeing that these heathen kingdoms that arise one after the other are beastly in nature. And so he's representing or symbolizing each of the beasts according to how he would see it, which is that they are beastly. So the lion is a ferocious, strong, conquering anything that it attacks. That's the symbology that we're given for the Babylonian Empire. Now remember, the Babylonian Empire is 605 BC to 539 BC. It lasted 66 years. And I'm just going to grab a random image off of doing a Google search for this beast, for this particular beast. And understand this is not my image, okay? I do not claim it as my image. Whoever made this image, to that person be all the credit, all the glory, their work, their job. They did great. So I'm just going to use this image throughout the videos, and if the individual that made this image has a problem with it, please contact me and see if we can get something worked out. I just picked the best image that I felt was closest to the representation given to us in the scriptures, so that the people all over the world can, first of all, see your image and the great work you did, but also have a perspective or a concept of the idea of what is being presented in our scriptures. So, again, the lion's ferocious, it's strong, and it conquers anything that it attacks. So, and that's exactly what the Babylonian Empire did as it came into being. Let's take a look at some verses in the scriptures that pretty much identify that Babylon is, quote-unquote, the lion. Let's go over to the book of Jeremiah, because really Jeremiah is the one that pinpoints it down to basically being a lion. We'll go to the 4th chapter if you're following along, and we'll go down to the 7th verse. So it says, "The lion is come up from his thicket, and the destroyer of the Gentiles is on his way. He is gone forth from his place to make thy land desolate, and thy cities shall be laid waste without an inhabitant." Okay, remember that this is talking specifically to Judah and to Jerusalem. That area right there, the house of Judah. Okay, the southern part of Israel, and because the northern house, the house of Israel, has already been scattered, or has already been taken. They've already sinned. They've already done their thing. They've already been pushed out of the promised land, out into the nation. But now it's Judah's turn, because Judah continued to do what Judah does, and so they end up being conquered by Babylon. And so it says, the lion has come up from his thicket. Okay, who came and attacked Judah and Jerusalem? It was Babylon. The destroyer of the Gentiles is on his way. Now, this is not saying that that Babylon is the one who would destroy all the Gentile nations. Rather, what it's saying is that of the Gentiles, that which is the destroyer is on his way. The destroyer of the Gentiles is on his way to take you down. He's gone forth from his place to make your land desolate. That's Judah and Jerusalem. And again, they go in, they besiege Judah, they besiege Jerusalem, they overtake it, and then they take the people captive. And again, that's how we get Daniel all the way over into Babylon, hundreds of miles away. When we read the book of Daniel, is because he's been conquered, as we've seen in the previous chapters. Judah and Jerusalem's been conquered, and they've been taken captive over into Babylon. So let's take a look also, if you're following, go to Jeremiah 50, and then we'll go down to Q, verse 17. And it says here, Israel is a scattered sheep. The lions have driven him away. First, the king of Assyria hath devoured him. The last, this Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, hath broken his bones. Okay, two things to note here. First of all, it's very specific. Israel is scattered, right? But why? Because the lions have driven him away. Who are the lions? Assyria, and and last, this Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, hath broken his bones. Now, we're going to find out that Assyria is in power, and it's actually going to be presented to us right here in this prophecy that we're in Daniel chapter 7. Assyria was in power, but eventually Babylon comes into power, and King Nebuchadnezzar comes into power. But Assyria was there first, and Assyria was doing various attacks over on Judah and Jerusalem, but wasn't never able to overtake them or to do anything to them. It wasn't until the other lion, the last one, this Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came in, that their bones were finally broken, and then they were taken captive. But just take notice that these lions are represented as Assyria and the king of Babylon. So Babylon and Assyria are both presented to you as the lion, and it's point blank right here in this verse. Let's also back up to Jeremiah chapter 49 real quick, and let's go down to the 19th verse this time, and let's read what that has to say. Behold, he shall come up like a lion from the swelling of Jordan against the habitation of the strong. But I will suddenly make him run away from her. And who is a chosen man that I may appoint over her? For who is like me, and who will appoint me the time? And who is that shepherd that will stand before me? Now, we know who that shepherd is. We know that's Jesus. We know all that stuff. But again, he shall come up like a lion, swelling from the swelling of the Jordan against the habitation of the strong. So again, we have Babylon presented to us as the lion. So I just wanted to bring all that to the forefront, so that you understand that both Assyria and Babylon are both considered to be lions. And this is important because it's recorded into history. Let's go ahead and back up to Daniel chapter 7 now. Get back to our verse here. So the first part we've gone over, the first was like a lion. Now understand what happens here. What does God do here? In all of these beast systems, he's going to give us the animal that presents the beast the best. Then he's going to attach to that beast the things that are not represented by that animal, by the original animal, in this case the lion. He'll attach things to that lion in order to present and to symbolize other aspects or other parts of that kingdom, because no animal perfectly represents any one kingdom that arises out of the sea. So first we have, he's like a lion, and we know he's like a lion. They're ferocious, they're strong, and they conquer whatever they go out to attack. They come out of the thicket and all this kind of stuff. It's presented to us in the scriptures clearly that they are the lion, and historically we're going to see also that they are presented as the lion. Next he says that it had eagle's wings. So we have the lion, we have the overall character of the kingdom of Babylon, the lion, and now he's attaching eagle's wings. Understand that there is no mention here at all of how many wings there are. The emphasis, rather, is on the type of wings. So you have a lion, and you have a lion that has wings on it. We don't know how many wings, and apparently it doesn't matter, or he would have told us the exact number of wings, but he doesn't tell us. He tells us that specifically these are eagle's wings. Now, what is the eagle? Eagles are the king. Here we go again. The eagles are the king of the fowl kingdom. They are the kingdom of the fowls of the air. They are the kings of the fowls of the air. Eagles can reach speeds of 200 miles per hour in a dive. That's power. That's speed. Okay? Now, go do your research on this. When the baby, mom covers the mother eagle covers the nest with feathers, and she has her babies. And these little baby eagles are nice and comfortable under mother, and they're growing, and they're, so forth and so on. And eventually they get to a point where really they're getting too big for the nest, and they have feathers, and they are capable of flying, but they've not been taught how to fly. And so what the mother eagle does is she comes in there and she takes all that comfortableness out of the nest. She starts plucking out all the feathers out of the nest and kicking them out of the nest, the feathers, until the nest is nothing but sticks and very uncomfortable for the babies. So the babies start moving around, and eventually they get to a point where they're agitated, they can't get comfortable, and in the meanwhile, daddy eagle is way, way, way up in the sky, way up there, way up there. Now, understand, most eagles, if they're in their natural habitat, they're in the mountains, and they build their nests on a cliff of a mountain, so it's thousands of feet to the ground. But anyway, you got daddy up here hovering around while these little baby eagles are getting more and more uncomfortable. And as they're getting agitated and moving around the nest, the mother kicks one out of the nest, just pushes it out with her beak, pushes it out of the nest, and the baby eagle begins to descend, to fall. And fall. And fall. And fall. Daddy's up there just kicking it, chilling out, hanging out, watching what's happening. Baby's falling. Baby's not learning to fly. Baby's just falling and falling and falling and falling and falling. And then daddy realizes, okay, he didn't get it this round, but daddy goes into a dive. And they have been clocked at over 200 miles per hour in their descent when they attack prey and when they're catching their children. And so he goes down and he catches the baby. He brings it back up to the nest, gets him uncomfortable. Mom kicks him back out again. He begins that fall again. He begins to flap his wings, and he slowly, over time, begins to learn to fly. And that's how the baby eagle learns to fly. My point here is that the eagle can fly at speeds of up to 200 miles per hour. So Babylon was originally ruled by Assyria. Okay, now we just mentioned this when we were over in the book of Jeremiah, and we're going to go ahead and take a look at what's going on here because it's really important. It's ruled by Assyria prior to the actual Babylon Empire, okay? You have the Babylonian Empire, but it's not in its great glory. It's not in its great might. It hasn't conquered everything at this point. You have all these various wars between the Assyrians, the Babylonians, and all the different nations that are around that area going on. But what this verse is showing us by giving us the eagle's wings is that it's actually showing us a time prior to Babylon. So right here we're already getting more detail than we had in the book of Daniel chapter 2. Daniel chapter 2 we're just given from Babylon onward, but here we're being given the fact that this lion has eagle's wings, and these eagle's wings represent the nation prior to Babylon, that is Assyria. Okay, so I've taken you over here to Wikipedia, and we're on the Babylonian page here. So we're going to show you how this all worked out. First of all, what we're going to do is go down here to the Assyrian rule and look at the date here. Assyrian rule was 911, kind of crazy, isn't it? But 911 to 619 BC. So 911 BC to 619 BC. Remember, the Babylonian Empire comes into existence as the world empire, as the dominant world power in 605 BC. Okay, and it goes on to 539 BC. But understand that the Assyrian rule is that rule or that power that existed prior to Babylon. So we'll go on down here, and guys, I'm going to leave all this, the links are always in the description of the video. Just click on show more below the video there, and it will provide all the links, all the information that you're going to need to do your own research. So we're right here in the Neo-Babylonian Empire, the Chaldean era, right? Because that when we go in and we look at the concordance, it's all Chaldean language. It's all about Chaldea. Why? Because Judah and Jerusalem, the house of Judah, got taken over by Babylon, and they're now under this new foreign language that they don't know. They're learning, and it's becoming a part of their life, and so forth and so on. That's very important to understand, that they are beginning to learn a new language. Very important. Why? Because we're going to find out that in the Babylonian Empire, they were all about what? Controlling the minds of men. The same thing we're dealing with in Mystery Babylon. Alright, let's go on down here to this spot right here. And it says Nabopolassar, followed by his son Nebuchadnezzar II, 605 to 562 BC. Okay, this is exactly the Nebuchadnezzar of the scriptures. Okay, but we're getting from the historical background now. Nabopolassar was followed by his son Nebuchadnezzar II, whose reign of 43 years made Babylon once more the ruler of much of the civilized world, taking over portions of the former Assyrian Empire, with the eastern and northeastern portion being taken by the Medes and the far north by the Scythians. The point of the matter is, it was Assyria that was in existence as the power prior to Babylon coming into world power. Again, in Daniel 2, we only get the vision from Nebuchadnezzar onward. What we aren't given is the vision of what happened just prior to Babylon coming into world power and the times of the Gentiles beginning. I'm bringing up that the fact that the Assyrian Empire is involved, number one, because we've seen it in Jeremiah, but because of number two, because of the symbology that's involved, and we need to understand the symbols. But let's back up real quick up here, and let's go right here. In 615 BC, while the Assyrian king was fully occupied fighting rebels in both Babylonia, remember I told you there's these conflicts going on between the different nations, Babylonia and Assyria itself, Cyaxares launched a surprise attack on the Assyrian heartlands, sacking the cities of Kulu, the biblical Kala, Nimrud, and Arpachshad, modern Kirkuk. Nabopolassar was still pinned down in southern Mesopotamia and thus not involved in this breakthrough. The reason I brought you to this verse is because I want to bring up something very important. Sacking the cities of Kulu, okay? Sacking the cities of Kulu. We're in the Assyrian heartlands. The Assyrian heartlands. And when we look at this image, Kalu, what do you have? You have a beast with eagle's wings. A beast with eagle's wings. Okay? We're going to find out biblically that this is true, but I'm showing you historically with their own structures themselves that they were presented as a beast with a human head and eagle's wings. Okay, so when you're looking at the symbology that this lion had eagle's wings, then we are talking about Babylon, and when the eagle's wings are attached to Babylon, we are talking about the Assyrian Empire that is prior to Babylon. So we're actually given a glimpse into a time before the vision of Daniel chapter 2, where King Nebuchadnezzar and the times of the Gentiles begin. Secondly, I want you to see this. The Assyrian heartland sacking the cities of Kulu, the biblical Kala, and Nimrud. Okay? Nimrud. What does that sound like? Nimrod. Nimrod. Let's hover right over that. Same thing. Same place. Same concept. Nimrod's involved. What did we say was originally Babylon? Babel. Where they built the Tower of Babel, where Nimrod was in control and in power, where he had created a nation and a state and church combo, and was out to conquer God. Now, Nimrod built both Nimrud and Babylon. Both. It's all the same thing. It's all under Nimrud. If you do some research, you'll find out that Abraham was put into a fire by Nimrod and comes out just fine. Not a hair on his head touched, nothing. Okay? Do some research. If you go back to the Muslim faith, Muslim, Judaism, and Christianity all basically fall under the same basic setup. In Judaism, it's It's Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. Okay, and that's where they stop because they're still looking for the Messiah. They rejected Jesus Christ. In fact, they crucified Christ, as we read in the book of Acts. Then the Christian situation, the Christianity situation, is that you have Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the same as Judaism, but you have Jesus. So you have Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, David, then Jesus, the Savior of mankind. In the Muslim religion, the Muslim structure is Abraham, Ishmael, and then Muhammad, the Prophet Muhammad. Okay? And if you go into the Quran actually discusses and talks about Abraham, their father, which is our father, okay, Abraham actually being put into the fire by Nimrod and coming out of the fire. Okay, being declared righteous by the Creator himself. That's in the Quran. So, and what else you need to understand about the Muslim is from the Muslim religion came Islam, and Islam is the very people that protected the Protestants when the papacy was getting ready. Look, the Protestants came out of the papacy. They realized what the papacy was. They realized they were massacring Christians. They realized that there were secret things going on. They realized that this was Antichrist. They realized that that they were in a very messed up situation, that they had been deceived, and they had come out of the papacy. And then the papacy said, no, you don't. And so papacy was going to go after the Protestant Reformation. They were going to go after the Protestants as they were trying to recreate the house of the Lord. So here's the papacy facing off, looking at the Protestants, and says, we are going to take you down. And about that time, Islam looked over at the papacy, and Islam cannot stand any people, tongue, or nation that worship idols. They cannot stand idol worship. They cannot stand it. And they looked at the papacy and they said, you worship idols. You must be destroyed. And so what happened? The papacy, who was fixing to go after the Protestants, who were coming up out of this idol worship, out of this false system, out of the beast system, and going to build the house of the Lord and to worship the Lord in truth, they come. The Islam says, okay, papacy, you're idol worshippers, and you over here, you Protestants, you hate the papacy, and you're declaring them Antichrist and idol worshippers. We're going to protect you, and we're going to conquer the papacy. And so Islam literally became a safe haven for the Protestants during this time. And the papacy, who was set to conquer the Protestants, could no longer do that objective because they had to defend themselves against Islam. So Islam came into a power, and Father allowed that power to arise under Ishmael and the Prophet Muhammad in order to protect his church, the body of Jesus, the Protestants coming out of the papacy. Now that's neither here nor there, but it's going to become important when we get to the book of Revelation. You need to know your real history. Now, if you are Muslim and you are part of Islam, please understand and do your research. The Savior does not come through Ishmael. Yes, all of Abraham's children are promised to be great people in some way, in some form, or some fashion. They will all have their own kingdoms, their own powers, and so forth and so on. Okay, so Ishmael gave up his birthright to Isaac. And the promise was that the seed that would defeat Satan would come through Isaac, not Ishmael, not a prophet named Muhammad. Okay, all I'm asking is that you go do your research and you come to the truth for yourself, because we all need to be saved, all of us. And there's only one Savior, and that is Jesus Christ, who came down through Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and then you have David in there, and eventually the seed of David, the root of David, is Jesus Christ. So just do your research. If you're a Muslim, get to the truth. Get to the absolute truth. And thank you for protecting the Protestant and the body of Christ when they came up out of the papacy. Alright, so anyway, getting back to this. Persian Babylonia. And what I want you to notice here is that Babylonia was absorbed into the Achaemenid Empire. Okay, who's the Achaemenid Empire? That's the Medo-Persian Empire. That's the next empire that comes forth as the next world power that conquers Babylon. But understand what happens. Babylonia was absorbed into the next empire. Now, I've been over this again and again. Now, understand the symbology here. You have the eagle. You have the eagle's wings. Okay. You have nothing in the feet. Okay. In America, what do you have? In one foot, you have 13 arrows. Why 13? Because there's 13 tribes. And then in the other one, what do you have? An olive branch. And what's on the olive branch? 13 olives. And what does the olive branch represent? We'll get into that later. But again, 13, 13, 13 shows up all over America because it's where the two sticks came together. But here it is void. He is carrying nothing but rings. Okay? Just understand symbology. It's important. You have a ring here, and there's actually a ring above the bird that you can't really see forming a triangle. But the point I'm trying to get across to you is that Babylonia was absorbed into the Achaemenid Empire. I don't know how exactly to say that. Just forgive me and just get the message, the importance. Get me out of the picture, guys. It's never ever about me. It's about Jesus. It's about the truth, and it's about what real history is about. So just get me out of this. Babylonia was absorbed into the Achaemenid Empire in 539 BC. Right? That's exactly when the Babylonian Empire ceased to exist. 605 BC to 539 BC. It existed for 66 years, and it was absorbed into the next empire, the Medo-Persian Empire. It's very important that you understand that Babylonia was absorbed. Okay? They didn't just get conquered. They were absorbed. What exactly was in the Babylonian Empire? Let's go on down to the culture. First of all, you got the animal sacrificing going on, which we'll get into that later. The arts and the architecture, astronomy, of course, we know that the Chaldeans were all about astrology. They were about secret schools and mystery schools and secret things and all these different types of things, from astrology to witchcraft to the telling of fortunes to, I mean, just pretty much anything you can think of was involved. But let's get on down here to medicine. Okay, medical diagnosis and prognosis. Check this out. We find medical semiotics in a whole constellation of disciplines. There was a real common ground among these Babylonian forms of knowledge. An approach, here's the important part, an approach involving analysis of particular cases, constructed only through traces, symptoms, hints. In short, we can speak about a symptomatic or divinatory or conjectural paradigm which could be oriented toward past, present, and or future. Okay, past, present, or future, depending on the form of knowledge called upon. Toward future, that was the medical science of symptoms, which its double character diagnostic, explaining past and present, and prognostic, suggesting likely future. Now, this was by Carlo Ginzburg. What you are witnessing, guys, right here in Babylonian is pharmacia in today's world. Okay? They go after the symptoms. They do not fix the problem. They go after the symptoms. They give you this pill. And how do they go after the symptoms? It's based on what? Right here. This was the medical science of symptoms, with this double character diagnostic, which explains the past and present, and prognostic, suggesting what's going to happen to you in the future. Okay? This is mental games. So you go to the doctor, and you've been just fine. You've been having a great week. You've had a great month. Everything's just great in your life. You go to the doctor, and the doctor says, you got high cholesterol. All right, well, what do? You sit there and you're like, oh no. Well, the doctor said I got high cholesterol, and I need to take these pills. I need to do this, and I need to do that, and I need to, because the doctor said so. And you have absolutely no way to prove whether what he's telling you is even true or not. He can show you these graphs, he can show you these numbers, he can show you these blood results, he can show you all these things, but you have no way to know whether or not that this Chaldean is telling you the truth or not. He has been taught in school that this is the way it's done. Whether it's right or it's wrong, it does not matter. All you are dealing with the doctor is the same exact thing that got started in Babylonia 2,500 years ago. It got absorbed into the Medo-Persian Empire, and then into the Greek Empire, and then into the Roman Empire, and all the way down to our time. Why are they doing vaccines and all these different things? It is exactly the same thing. It is still Babylon. But now it is Mystery Babylon, because Babylon, a nation, does not exist. But Mystery Babylon, it is a secret societies, secret people that have infiltrated into all the nations and are controlling. We'll get into more details of this as we go along, but understand what you are reading here. Read it, pause the video, read this section slowly and carefully until you get it, until you see it. That what you see, that what's going on today is exactly the same as what was going on 2,500 years ago. And what do they do in modern times? They convince you have high cholesterol. They convince you have high blood sugar. They convince you you have whatever you have, whatever they can convince you that you have. You have cancer, whatever it is. Then what? Then they give you pills. And then what happens when they give you pills? Well, those go to work in your body, and they temporarily fix the symptoms, but over time they hurt you worse, so that you have to come back to the pharmaceutical industry and you need more pills. Okay, you're temporarily fixed, and it looks like, wow, that really worked. Okay, that's witchcraft, that's magic, that's wizardry. That's all that they do. Illusionists. Man-made pills. What did God say? Healing is in the leaves. Healing is in the leaves. Okay, but here we are going to this quote-unquote doctor that has 10, 12 years of school and now owes so much debt that he has to work till he goes into the grave. And everything he buys, he has the best income in the world, but he has the most debt in the world. And when he dies, his children have to come up and pay several $100,000 in taxes and everything else. And, it's just absolutely absurd what is going on in the world today. But we fell for it because we fell asleep. All of us. The whole world. Satan deceived everybody. The whole world. All of us. Every nation, every tongue, every people. Anyways, guys, it gets worse. We can go down here. The mathematics. We don't get real, true, genuine mathematics today. Instead, we get Babylonian mathematics in our school system. We have a Babylonian school system. We have a Babylonian government that has seized control of our government. They've seized control of the government, of the schools. That is our education, both elementary and college level. They've seized control of the food industry. They seized control of the minds of men concerning space. They seized control of over absolutely every detail. The math that we receive in school today is not real, true math. And they don't even go into the fact that every letter of the alphabet has numerical value. God created the original language, Hebrew, and every letter has a numerical value. Every single letter has a numerical value, and that numerical value has a meaning. So one letter can tell you a complete whole story. And if you take multiple letters and you put them together, that's multiple numbers, and that tells an entire paragraph worth of information. These are things that we are not taught in the Babylonian school system. People call it the public fool system. It is the Babylonian school system. That's what it is. They control every aspect, every thing that is in existence, they control it. They snuck in and they seized control of little positions, and they slowly, gradually, through secret societies, seized control of all the positions. They created brotherhoods, anything from government type brotherhoods to police force brotherhoods and all sorts of other brotherhoods. But again, going back to the math itself that we are taught today is nowhere. Look at what the kids are being taught as far as math today in their school books. Go look at it. And then go back 6 years and tell me why they just made math 30 million times more difficult for the students today than it was 6 years ago. Instead of just adding two numbers together, you got to do all this weird stuff to come out to the same thing if you just added two numbers together. It's absolutely ridiculous. The dumbing down of America is being done through a Babylonian system. And this is why the scriptures tell us to come out of it. We can go on and on and on and on about the mystery Babylon that exists in our nation and in every nation on the earth. They snuck in and they took positions in very low spots in your towns and cities, in your counties, in your states, and in the federal levels and in the earth-wide levels. And they slowly seized control of it all. Now this is the very thing that is being exposed today. But let's go ahead and let's move on down and let's look at something else, the controlling of the minds of men, because that's what we deal with the most today. Okay, so in the philosophy part of this, it says the origins of Babylonian philosophy can be traced back to early Mesopotamian wisdom literature. Not the Word of God literature, not the wisdom of God, but earthly wisdom literature, which embodied certain philosophies of life, particularly ethics, in the forms of dialectic, dialogues, epic poetry, folklore, hymns, lyrics, prose, and proverbs. Babylonian reasoning and rationality developed beyond empirical observations. Now this is very critical to grasp. It is Babylonian reasoning and Babylonian rationality. These two things are what control the minds of men to this day. It is possible that Babylonian philosophy had an influence on Greek philosophy, particularly the Hellenistic philosophy. The Babylonian text, dialogue of pessimism, contains similarities to the agnostic thoughts of sophists, the Heraclitean doctrine of contrast, and dialogues of Plato, and so forth and so on. The philosophy influenced not just Babylon. It started in Babylon. It came down through the Medo-Persian Empire into the Greek Empire and Greek philosophy and Hellenistic philosophy, and on into the Roman Empire and on into our day. It's about agonistic and all these things, guys. What I'm trying to get to the point here is that it is philosophy that we are taught today. We are taught theory, the theory of evolution. Theory, okay? The Big Bang theory. Everything is a theory, and they don't present anything with fact. Everything is a lie, a deception, a controlling of the minds of men. This all started in Babylon, and each empire that came after Babylon added to that philosophy. And as it all accumulated, it came down to us in what is today Mystery Babylon. What they did is they slipped in, first of all, government-wise, they came into your local area, and they removed the family unit as the seat of authority, and they took positions in the local city and township governments that are in position. Then they moved into the counties, then they moved into the state, and then they moved into the federal, and then they controlled all of it. Okay? They control law, they control work or industry, they control history, what history they want you to believe in the mind. They control language. They control the food industry, the schools, both the kids and the adults, those that are going into industry. Okay, controlling their minds, what they want them to do and not do, so that they make the money. They control police forces. They control entire cities. They control sports. They control entertainment. They control the minds of men through their philosophies and their ethics. Okay, and they use what? Lyrics. They in the music industry, they use proverbs that they pass down between all the different things, such as back into the Greek philosophy and the Hellenistic philosophy. They use poetry, epic poetry at that, dialogues and dialectics. They use all of these different things to control the minds of men and to steer them away from the truth. They control things also such as sciences and earth, what the shape of the earth is. Rather than an enclosed system, they got you in this vastness of space, and the position and place of the earth. The earth is the center of all things, of all attention. It's the center of attention of the angels, of man, of God, of all things. But they tell you that it's just a speck of dust in the billions and trillions and quadrillions of galaxies, and they control every single thought. That's what they do. Let's look at the legacy here. And we're just going to, you guys can come read all of this, guys, but I just want you to read this here. Early Christians sometimes referred to Rome as Babylon. Okay? The Apostle Peter ends his first letter with this advice: she who is in Babylon. And he's referring specifically to Rome. She who is in Babylon, chosen together with you, sends you her greetings, and so does my son Mark. Okay, Rome was considered Babylon. Babylon is the head of the statue. It is the head of the animal or beast kingdom. It is the head of the fowl kingdom. It is the head, the thoughts, the mind control, MK Ultra today, and all sorts of other things. As I've said, they've infiltrated all things. And so when you go to the doctor, you're not going to a legitimate doctor. You're going to Babylon. Mystery Babylon. The doctors don't have any clue, because they're just, look, he deceiveth the whole world. The dragon, that serpent, the devil, Satan, deceiveth the whole world. These doctors don't have a clue that they're killing people. Well, some of them do. Don't get me wrong. Some do. They know exactly what they're doing. But most of them, overall, go in it with a good heart to help and to cure and to help people. But in the United States Corporation, that is the United States Corporation, not the United States of America and the Republic. The United States Corporation, it is absolutely illegal to cure. Okay? The United States of America, the CDC, and all these other agencies own the patents to every single disease. Cancer, AIDS, all of it. They own the patents, meaning they created them. They also own the patents to the cure. But it is illegal in the United States Corporation to cure somebody. You are living in Mystery Babylon. I can't make this any clearer, guys. But you guys can come read this. But even the early Christian church, the apostolic church, that is the church that existed when the Spirit of God came into the body of Christ during Pentecost. That early apostolic church, when the apostles were the leaders of the church body, they knew exactly who Rome was. And they understood that Babylon has passed down through all of the different kingdoms, through all of the different beasts, and each beast added more to that mind control, and it still exists to this day. And that Mystery Babylon would someday come into existence, where nobody would see it because it doesn't exist on a physical level. There is no physical nation called Babylon, but that it exists over all of the nations, all of the peoples, all of the tongues, by mind control. Now, let's take a look at a couple of images. The first image I want you to take a look at, this is a inscription on a wall. This is something that is found in the Assyrian Empire, and this is what is presented to us. A lion with wings, okay? And you also have the guy in the wings flying through the air, okay? Now a lot of people try to take this symbology here that, you know, these people from outer space came onto the earth, and they're the ones that gave us everything, and they're the ones that manipulated the DNA of ape man and made us into this, and you know, they were trying to harvest gold for their atmosphere of their planet. If you believe in all that, then you've completely have rejected the scriptures that tells you that you are in an enclosed system. You are completely, utterly mind controlled. You can't believe in any of that if you believe the truth. But as long as your mind is in Mystery Babylon and you're stuck in Babylon and you have not come out of her, my people, that's what he tells us to do. Come out of her, my people, that you participate not in her sins and end up in her plagues. Okay? What are the sins? The sins is the mind control, the lies and the deceptions, the steering away of mankind from God and from the truth and the light and the love of God. That's what Mystery Babylon is. Okay? These people did not come down from heaven. The wings were to show who they were. They had eagle's wings. They were swift. They were the controllers of the earth. They were over the top of mankind. Okay? That's all this is symbology encrypted onto rock. Here is a picture from one of the ancient ruins in Assyria. And here you see that you have, and I want you to take a very close look at the image of the face. Okay, you got a beast with a human face, and it has eagle's wings. Eagle's wings right in here. Okay, take a very close look at that face. Very important that you understand who that face is. Okay, both of them. They're both the same face. Okay, they got different hats, different crowns. You can see the different crowns. But the fact of the matter is, you have a beast with a man's face and wings. Okay, so here it is again, and here is Nimrod. This is Nimrod, and this gives you a concept of how big look, this right here and this right here are cutouts from ancient destroyed ruins of ancient civilizations of the Assyrian and Babylonian Empire. They are inside of this museum where people can come and check them out, but they were literally pulled from the ruins of Assyria and Babylon. And what do you have? You have the beast with the eagle's wings and the human face, and the human face is always in representation of Nimrod. How big was Nimrod? He's got a lion in his hand. A lion in his hand. He was big. He was a mighty hunter before the Lord. He was a giant. Okay? Just understand these things. But here he's not wearing the crown. He's not got all that kind of stuff. But he has the same exact beard type situation going on here with the little whatever these things are that hang off the ears. Okay, but we'll see a better picture of him in just a second. Here again is another ruin, another place that has been archaeology has gone to and checked out. And again, you got the human face, the beast with the beast. Okay, it's not represented as a lion; it's represented as a beast with the lion's eagle's wings. And you got two more of them over here with the wings as well. Same face, same everything. Again, Nimrod. It's all about Nimrod, who made Nimrod and Babylon, both. And this is a picture from Rome. Rome in modern times. And what do you have? A lion with the wings. Okay? Babylon is still with us to this day. It's never gone away. It's just nowadays it's mind control. It's not a physical nation, but they are still conquering to this very day. They have never stopped. They're still with us. That is Mystery Babylon. They are the controllers of the earth, because we fell asleep, we turned our backs on God, we walked away from the covenant of our fathers that created this nation, the covenant that He made with the Lord. Okay, we made a covenant, and God made a covenant with us, and He took His law and He wrote it. First of all, He took away the heart of stone, through Jesus Christ by salvation. He gave us hearts of flesh, and upon those hearts of flesh He wrote His law on our hearts. That is, the mind is the mind in which all the thoughts and things take place. The heart is the subconscious mind. And He's wrote His laws in our hearts and upon the tablets of our hearts. He made a covenant in these last days where we would come together, both the house of Israel and the house of Judah would come together, And then when we did that, he made a covenant of peace. That's why we do not have war on our land. Have you not paid attention? War does not hit our land except except if it is an inside job, such as 9/11 or Pearl Harbor or any of the other events, which were all inside jobs done by Mystery Babylon for an agenda to gradually seize control of us and to get us to do what they wanted us to do against the other nations and so forth and so on. Again, we'll get more details on that as we go forward in the series. But understand that even today, the symbology is still there. They still put it in your face. Mystery Babylon. Babylon is still conquering to this day. And here we have another image of Nimrod. And here you can see he has the exact same attire as the head of the beast that we've been looking at. And Nimrod is shown with wings on and almost an animalistic type of foot. But he was a giant, and he's holding these two things, which I personally do not know that symbology and what the symbology means concerning these two things. Other people do, perhaps, but I do not, and I'm not going to claim that I know. The next thing I want to show you is the Gate of Ishtar. Before I actually show you the Gate of Ishtar, I want you to look at this image. This is an image that was on the Gate of Ishtar. This is part of Babylon. And notice that you have a line, and it has the mane up here, and then it goes into a wing of an eagle. Okay? But now let's go take a look at the Gate of Ishtar. But just understand that the symbology is there for Babylon, having the lion with the eagle's wings. Okay, so Germany went into the ruins of Babylon and excavated. They took the Ishtar Gate down, clay block by clay block, clay tile by clay tile, labeling each one number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, etc. They then took all of those clay blocks and clay tiles and they brought them back to Berlin, Germany, and they put them back together in the Pergamus Museum. It is now reassembled, and this is exactly what you're looking at here. This was Babylon. And what do you have? The lions, and they have the wing on them. The wing on them. This was Babylon. This is their symbol. Now, let's go. Okay, they didn't just put the Ishtar Gate in here, but you can walk through the entire museum. Let me show you something. You can walk throughout the entire museum, and they've got little parts and pieces of it all throughout where you can go and you can read. And here you have it again. You got Nimrod the face, the beast with the wings coming up off of it. And here you got it again. You got the lion with the wings. Okay, the symbology is the same. But Ishtar Gate, Ishtar, Easter. That's where we get our Easter from. Again, they took away the holy days, which draw a picture of all the things that Christ would do, and, a lot of which he's already done, and some of the things which are yet to be done. But the holy days, the festivals, the holy days are very, very important. They show you a picture that you wouldn't see otherwise. But what they did is they took the holy days and gave us holidays. And again, if you just take the word and split it, you got holy days. The only difference is instead of we no longer serve the holy days, we now serve the pagan holy days, and they call them holidays. Again, Easter is the worship of Ishtar, which is what this whole entire gate was. This Ishtar Gate is Ishtar, the goddess of fertility. That's why on Easter they have trained us to take our kids out and to collect eggs that were dropped by a bunny. Now, when was the last time you ever seen a rabbit? In fact, has there ever been a time that you've ever seen a rabbit lay eggs? Absolutely not. Rabbits produce bunnies. They don't come forth in eggs. So why are we getting our kids out here to collect eggs from a rabbit? Because we are causing our kids to serve Ishtar on Easter. Ishtar, the goddess of fertility. What they used to do, especially like in the Greek Empire, for example. Remember, these are the people that had the belly, the groin, sensuality, and the thighs. The Greek Empire. what they would do is whole towns and whole cities would come together and have massive orgies where everybody slept with everybody and produce fertility. That's what it was all about, worshiping the god of Ishtar. And today we serve that same thing in our holidays, in our holy days that they gave us that we call Easter. All of the holidays are pagan holidays, pagan holy days that we serve because the Christian church in the time of I can't think of his name, Constantine the Great, the one that came forth and gave the church freedom and allowed the true church to come out from underground. When that happened, the true church, the body of Christ, compromised. They compromised, and they accepted the pagan holidays in order to continue to move forward without persecution. Now, they ended up getting persecuted anyway, and they made a mistake and all these kinds of things, but that's how all this got passed down to us to this very day. And they are causing us, Mystery Babylon is causing us to worship false gods or idols. Okay, no different than worshiping the stars, watching them on TV, going to their concerts, doing all the things. They think that you will follow the stars, just like Q told everybody. They really believe you'll follow the stars wherever they go, whatever they say, that's what you'll do. And that's what we have done until the awakening process began. And we're coming up on the Great Awakening. All right, let's go over and take a look at Assyria. We're on Wiki Assyria here, and I'm not going to go over the information that's on the page. I'm not interested in that right now. I just want to come down to right here. We can see that we have the Assyrian troops returning from victory. We have winged creatures right there, and basically having wings on the horses as well. The Assyrian Empire has this wing character about it. It's all about wings. But let's go on down here, and I want to show you one other thing. The flag. Notice the symbolism once again. Okay, very important. Don't let the world deceive you that this is these winged creatures and this symbolism has to do with people from outer space and some other galaxy coming and all that kind of stuff. It's all nonsense. All of this has to do with the Assyrian and the Babylonian empires. Let's get back to the scriptures. So the character of the Babylonian Empire is that of a lion. It has eagle's wings, telling us that we are in a prior time before actual Daniel chapter 2, before the time of the Gentiles, before King Nebuchadnezzar conquers Judah and Jerusalem. But what does this eagle's wings symbolize? What does it symbolize? We know it symbolizes Assyria. That's unquestionable. It's undeniable, historically speaking. But what do eagle's wings symbolize in the scriptures? What's the meaning that is attached to this lion? We know that the lion is conquering and ferocious and all these things, and we have that symbology. We know that's exactly how Babylon was. But what is this eagle's wings? Let's go back to the book of Jeremiah. Oh, we're going the wrong way here. We'll go to Jeremiah. Let's go to the 4th chapter first. And let's go down to 13. And it says, "Behold, he shall come up as the clouds." Okay? You're going to hear this word clouds over and over again. Jesus coming back with the clouds and all this kind of terminology. These clouds, clouds, clouds. It's not talking about physical clouds up in the sky. "Behold, he shall come up as clouds, and his chariot shall be as a whirlwind. His horses are swifter than eagles. Woe unto us, we are spoiled." This is talk about Babylon coming and besieging Judah and Jerusalem, right? It says that he shall come up as clouds, that is, as a mass of army coming and descending upon Judah and Jerusalem. His chariot shall be as a whirlwind, the noise, the chaos that comes with the stomping of four-legged beast horses coming and in full speed headed toward Judah and Jerusalem. It's like a dust storm, a whirlwind, and his horses are swifter than what? Eagles. Woe unto us, we are spoiled. Swifter than eagles. So eagles, what did we say? 200 miles per hour. He says swifter than eagles. Let's continue to find the eagle symbology. Let's go down to the 49th chapter. And let's go jump on down to 22. And it says, Behold, he shall come up and fly as the eagle, and spread his wings over Bozrah. And at that day shall the heart of the mighty men of Edom be as the heart of a woman in her pangs. So it says here that he shall come up and fly as the eagle. Now, are they going to be in airplanes and all these kinds of things? No. He is saying that they're going to come in swiftly like the eagle comes in on an attack to get its prey. Let's continue to read. Let's go to, what should we go? Let's go to Lamentations. And let's go to the 4th chapter, and we'll jump down to the 19th verse here. And it says, Our persecutors are swifter than the eagles of the heaven, swifter than the eagles of heaven. They pursued us upon the mountains. They laid wait for us in the wilderness. So swifter than the eagles. Again, we're having this concept that eagles are swift, and these people that are coming are as swift or swifter than the eagles. Let's go to Habakkuk, and very first chapter, and let's read starting with verse 6. For lo, I raise up the Chaldeans. Who are the Chaldeans? Babylon. For lo, I raise up the Chaldeans, that bitter and hasty nation, the quick, fast nation, which shall march through the breadth of the land to possess the dwelling places that are not theirs. In other words, take over the Judah and Jerusalem and all the different places and possess that land and make it their home, even though it's not their home. Okay. Verse 7. They are terrible and dreadful. Their judgment and their dignity shall proceed of themselves. Verse 8. Their horses also are swifter than the leopards, and are more fierce than the evening wolves. And their horsemen shall spread themselves, and their horsemen shall come from afar, and they shall fly as the eagle that hasteth to eat. What did I tell you? When that eagle is hovering in the sky and it comes down to attack its prey or to catch its baby, either way, to attack its prey, it has been clocked at over 200 miles per hour. Again, the eagle is symbolizing speed or swiftness. Let's go to the book of Deuteronomy. And let's go down to the 28th chapter. And let's go where is it? Verse 49 here. The Lord shall bring a nation against you from afar, or from far, from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flieth. Okay, eagle is symbolizing swift flight, swift movement, quickness. A nation whose tongue you shall not understand. And again, we talked about this is the Chaldean language. This is a different language. They do not have the original Hebrew language. They were part of the confounded languages at the Tower of Babel. And as the children of God, as Judah, the house of Judah is taken into Babylon, they begin to learn a new language, just like America has a new language. And through that new language, we have been tricked, we have been deceived, we have gotten misunderstanding, and all these different various types of things. Again, controlling the minds of men. That's what Babylon does. Guys, I could go over and over again about these eagle verses. Here, let's do one more. Let's go to 2 Samuel, verse 1, or chapter 1. And let's go down to verse 23 here. And it says, Saul and Jonathan were lovely and pleasant in their lives, and in their death they were not divided. They were swifter than eagles. They were stronger than lions. And here you have the strength of a lion with the swiftness of an eagle. Same symbology that we're given in Daniel chapter 7. You want another one? Let's do another one. And then we'll just do one more, guys. We could go on and on forever to get this symbol figured out. But Isaiah chapter 5, and let's go 28 through 29. And it says, Whose arrows are sharp, and all their bows bent, their horses' hoofs shall be counted like flint, and their wheels like a whirlwind. Verse 29, their roaring shall be like a lion. They shall roar like young lions. Yeah, they shall roar and lay hold of the prey, and shall carry it away safe, and none shall devour it. And in that day they shall roar against them like the roaring of the sea. Again, we have that symbology again. And if one look into the land, behold darkness and sorrow, and the light is darkened in the heavens thereof. Now were the stars and the sun and the moon all darkened out? No, the knowledge of God was stamped out in the Babylonian Empire. But it came back through King Nebuchadnezzar once it was humbled. Okay, one more. We'll just go to Jeremiah. Last one, guys, last one. We could keep going, but let's just do this one. Let's go to 7. The lion is come up from his thicket, and the destroyer of the Gentiles is on his way. He is gone forth from his place to make thy land desolate, and thy cities shall be laid waste without an inhabitant. Again, you have lion, and you have the swiftness of an eagle. You have the ferociousness of a lion, the swiftness of an eagle. This is the symbology that is given to us in Daniel chapter 7. Now, let's head back to Daniel 7 and get back to our verse here. The first, we have the character of a lion, and added to this lion is eagle's wings. So this lion is ferocious, it is brutal, it is everything that a lion is, and on top of it, it is swift, it is quick, it is fast. A lion in and of itself is not fast. So he had the character of the lion is the character of this beast called Babylon. He calls it a beast. The first beast, 4 great beasts come up out of the sea. Come up from the sea, 4 great beasts. The first beast is like a lion. It has the character of a lion. But the lion itself does not fully describe Babylon. So he says it had eagle's wings. So you had a lion and eagle wings attached to it. Again, everything is absolutely precise. It's precision. Because he has foretold all these things before they come to pass, so that when they come to pass you might believe that he is the Son of God, that he is the Creator, that he knows all things prior, and that he has a plan, and that he ultimately will win. Okay? And it says, I beheld till the wings thereof were plucked. So here's the next part. I beheld till the wings thereof were plucked. Now, remember, we were just presented with eagle's wings. Okay? Eagle's wings is symbolizing that which came prior to the Babylonian Empire. It was the Assyrians that were as swift as eagles. Okay, so when Assyria / Babylon, remember they're one and the same, and they come together as Babylon. Assyria, Babylon becomes just Babylon. That's the wings thereof were being plucked off. So what's happening is that instead of it being Assyria, Babylon, it literally becomes the Babylonian Empire, and no longer was swift and fast. That's what the wings were symbolizing, the swiftness, the speed, the fastness. And at this point, when it became the Babylonian Empire, and purely the Babylonian Empire, after they took down Judah and Jerusalem, it basically what happened is it began to do very little physical conquest. So after it goes in and it takes down Judah and Jerusalem, basically the conquest comes to an end, and the times of the Gentiles has begun. Because Judah and Jerusalem specifically, has been overtaken by the Gentile, by the heathen nations. But take note that they did continue to do conquest. It was not physical conquest. The philosophy that we saw on Wikipedia over there, and the extraordinary amount of documentations from all over the place. You can do your own research on this, guys. Study it out. Learn from yourself. Study to show yourself approved. They conquered the minds of the people, tongues, and nations. That's their main conquering. Basically, they conquered Judah and Jerusalem and basically became a stagnant conquering empire. They weren't really interested in conquering anymore. They were conquering the minds from this point onward, getting people to stop guarding the mind, their heart. They were conquering God's people who had the truth of God. They were literally, gradually changing the minds and the hearts, very subtly changing people's thinking away from the truth to their philosophies, their ways of thinking, imprisoning people in the mind. Next, we find out that it was lifted up from the earth. What does lifted up mean? Pride, boastful, right? So you had the Assyrian Babylonian Empire that had the swiftness and the speed, and then all of a sudden the wings are plucked off. It's no longer out conquering, it's conquering mentally the minds of men, and now pride is being found in who? We're at the time of King Nebuchadnezzar. So King Nebuchadnezzar is prideful, boastful, arrogant. He's all these different things. He is the very image of who? Satan in the first earth age, when it was found in him. He was perfect until that was found in him. So pride, he is lifted up from the earth, this lion, but it says, and it was lifted up from the earth. So you had a lion with eagle's wings. The wings are plucked off. It was lifted up from the earth and made to stand upon the feet as a man. A lion has what? 4 feet. Somewhat fast, but not as fast as the eagle. So you had to put the eagle's wings on to signify Assyria, Babylon. But then Babylon becomes the actual genuine empire, not really Assyria, but Assyria is absorbed into Babylon. The wings get plucked off. They're controlling the minds of men. They go from 4 feet, that is, they're somewhat fast, and with the eagle's wings very fast. The wings are plucked off. The swiftness is gone. He's standing on 2 feet as a man now. He has 2 feet. He's now slower than the lion. So he's no longer the image of a lion, but the image of a man. And what do we see? A beast with a man's face, a beast with a man's face and eagle's wings. So the beast is gone. He's now standing up as a man. He's on 2 feet. He's moving slower, but he's still conquering. What is he conquering? He's conquering the minds of men. No longer conquering in conquest for land, but for conquesting the minds of God's chosen people. They were now conquering through mind control, changing of thoughts, changing of philosophy, becoming quote unquote civilized. The Babylonian civilization. Then it says, after he stood up on his feet, then a man's heart was given to it. Nebuchadnezzar went from a prideful, arrogant, boastful, and all about self situation to worshiping the one true God and causing his kingdom to worship the one true God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Not Abraham, Ishmael, and Muhammad, but Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Remember, we've been over this over and over again. First, you had King Nebuchadnezzar full of pride. Then he has this vision of this statue, which we went over in detail. And then from there, what does he say? After it's revealed to him by Daniel, he declares Daniel's God, that is the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. That's who Daniel's God is, to be the God of gods, the one true God. But then pride is still in his heart. Pride is still functioning. Boastfulness, he still thinks he's in control of the empire. He thinks he's the one doing it all. He thinks he has all the power. And so time goes forward, and then there's this other situation where Nietzsche, the 3 of them go into the furnace. The people putting them in the furnaces are consumed. Then Nebuchadnezzar looks into the furnace. There's not just the 3 of them, but there's also a 4th person, such as the Son of Man, that is the angel of the Lord. They come out. They don't smell like fire. Their clothes ain't burnt. Nothing's been touched on them. And so he declares that their God is the God of the one true God. And again, this is the same God, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Then, after all that, he falls again. He decides that, I'm still full of pride and all these things. Then he has his own dream, his own vision of this tree, this great massive tree where all the beasts of the field, right, all the kingdoms of the earth are under this thing, and all the fowls, the spirits, the demons, all the good and bad spirits are under this tree, and everything's going on with this tree. But then this tree gets cut off, and then what happens? Nebuchadnezzar goes out into the fields. His fingernails grow into to claws, basically. And his hair grows long. He eats of the grass. He becomes a literal beast himself, until for 7 years he lives as a beast in the field with the dew of the earth upon his skin and everything else, and becoming hairy like a beast. And then eventually he gets to a point where he understands that he is not in control, but the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob is in absolute control, and gave him this kingdom to reign and to rule. And he, from that, once he was humbled and once he accepted that, he came back to his senses. He shaved up and all that kind of stuff, and then all of a sudden he takes his entire kingdom, the kingdom of Babylon, and causes it to worship the one true God. It was given, and a man's heart was given to it. However, this has a double meaning, because that is only the first meaning. The spiritual side of this is that after Nebuchadnezzar dies, Marduk takes over, and Marduk eventually becomes a deity of himself. He's deified, and he's worshipped in the Medo-Persian Empire. He's worshipped in the Greek Empire, and even in the Roman Empire. But then you also have Belshazzar, who was also wicked and worshipped all sorts of gods, every god out there except the one true God. So the second dual meaning of this is that man's heart is stone. It is dead. It is overtaken by that disease called sin that came forth into mankind in Adam. So again, there's a dual meaning. He was given a man's heart because what? In Jesus Christ, we are given what? Hearts of flesh again. Hearts of flesh. And his law is written on the tablets of our heart. But prior to Jesus, prior to the acceptance of our salvation, what happens? We have hearts of stone. And the 10 Commandments were wrote on tablets of stone in Moses' day. So the second meaning here is that they were moving away from God. First they went to God in King Nebuchadnezzar, but the dual meaning suggests that after King Nebuchadnezzar, they began to move away from God. After Nebuchadnezzar, we had Marduk and Belshazzar, and the mind control got worse and worse and worse and worse. The philosophies, the theories, the concepts, all the different types of things. And so basically the bottom line of it all is what was going on after Nebuchadnezzar was philosophy. That is, that man's hearts was being developed by the Babylonian Empire. Thoughts being moved away from the truth of God to philosophy, to multiple gods, to all sorts of religions, to seeing God in the wrong perspective, in the wrong ideas and concepts. The Chaldeans were themselves barbarians originally, but they became civilized under Babylon. They were barbarians originally. They were not civilized. They were not under this philosophical thought process. They had not been civilized. They had not been programmed prior. But as Babylon became the world empire, they became a civilized empire. This is basically your first civilized empire. The programming away from God to man was well underway. This is where planets, instead of wandering luminaries, came into existence. This is when the concept of no dome, but that there's stuff out there besides us. Okay? Not one God, but all sorts of God. Sin is not a fatal disease anymore in this empire. But we can appease the gods, and that our sin and stuff can be appeased by the gods by sacrificing anything from animals to children and so forth and so on. This is carried down all the way to our time and to our day, right here, right now. We still have the child sacrifice, and we still have these people out here trying to appease the different gods and all these kinds of different things. Now, I'll put up in the description a link to Wiki Chaldeans, and you can go check out the Chaldeans themselves. Okay, there's a modern connection to the church. It's absolutely connected to the modern church. Nothing has changed. There is nothing new under the sun. So what has been shall be, and that which is has already been. Nothing new. So there's our first beast. Its symbology is absolute, it is precise, it is exacting, it is just like in the statue, but we have more information, we are given more detail, and we're even given detail just prior to the actual physical Babylonian Empire, where we see that there was a Assyrian / Babylonian Empire, where really the two were one and the same, working together. And so you had to have the swiftness, which was the Assyrian Empire, and then eventually those wings are plucked off and it becomes the Babylonian Empire, and then eventually it's lifted up from the earth. It's full of pride because that's what Nebuchadnezzar was, and then he's made to stand on his feet, then the heart given to him. We see the entire picture from, this is one verse. But all of this is given to us in one verse. This is the power of God. And he knew all these things before it happened. Everything that we're going over was prophesied before, in a vision, before it ever happened. Okay? This first part was partly already fulfilled, but not completely when he has these visions. Because what goes on through all these visions is more detailed than what we had in Daniel chapter 2. And again, we're seeing it from God's eyes this time as a beastly empire, cruel, mean, destructive, turning people away from God, turning people away from the truth, and going man's way in sin. That's what we're seeing. We're seeing it through his eyes this time, unlike in Daniel chapter 2. So guys, we'll pick it up in verse 5 in part 4. And we'll see you there. Get in the Word, stay in the Word, and get the Word in you. Best thing you can ever do in your life. Absolutely the best thing you can ever do. Stop wasting your time on everything else. Stop occupying your time. There's only one thing that is truly and genuinely important, and that's your Father's Word. Because it's the only place that there is truth. Let every man be a liar. Every man. And let your word be true. So your time should be spent whenever possible, at all times, in his word. It's the most important thing you can possibly do. Remember, other than the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, the two most important things are love and truth. After love and truth, peace and justice. Guys, may the peace that surpasses understanding be upon each and every single one of you. May Father open up your eyes in amazing ways to see the absolute clear truth. May his grace be with you all. I love you guys. Keep on praying. Prayers are the most important thing. This is a spiritual battle. I love you guys. We'll talk to you soon.